The hum of the ballroom speakers barely masked the tremor in my hands as Victor raised his glass. Our wedding reception, just minutes ago filled with laughter and celebratory clinks, now hung silent. I stood beside him draped in white lace, my smile fixed, a mask I'd perfected over the past few months. He cleared his throat, surveying the room with a confident smirk that sent a chill down my spine. "You're so lucky I chose you, Zara," he began, his voice dripping with condescension. "Most women would have buckled under the pressure of trying to keep up with my ambitions, but you, bless your heart, you just kept trying. A valiant effort, truly." My heart pounded, but my expression remained serene. He had no idea how much I'd truly kept up. The performance was almost over, and he was about to discover he was simply playing the lead in my final act. I met Victor at a charity gala 5 years ago. He was electric, a whirlwind of charm and ambition, talking passionately about his fledgling tech startup. I, a graphic designer with a growing freelance business, found myself drawn to his relentless drive. He saw me as his rock, the grounded force to his boundless vision, and I found joy in lending my creative talents to his pitch decks and marketing materials. Our first 6 months were a blur of shared dreams and late-night brainstorming. The first minor red flag was subtle. He once forgot to credit me for a particularly brilliant design idea during a casual pitch to friends, but I dismissed it as an oversight, caught up in the glow of his excitement. I remember a weekend in Santorini, watching the sun dip below the caldera, his arm around me, planning our future home, our careers, our life together. It felt like destiny. For the next 2 years, we were inseparable. I invested more than just my time. $80,000 of my savings, a substantial chunk of my inheritance, went directly into his struggling venture. I believed in him, pouring my energy into his projects, often neglecting my own business growth to support his. He was my partner, my future husband. We moved into his smaller apartment to save money, and I postponed my dream of opening my own studio, convinced it was for our greater good. We took impromptu road trips, celebrated every small victory of his, and I offered unwavering support, even when he doubted himself. I genuinely believed he was different, that he valued our partnership as much as I did. The first real cracks started appearing about a year before our wedding. Victor began dismissing my ideas with a wave of his hand, claiming they weren't innovative enough for his burgeoning empire. When I pushed back, he'd gaslight me with a calm, patronizing tone. "You're getting emotional, Zara. This is business." I'd always justified it, telling myself he was under immense pressure, a genius burdened by the mundane. But the pattern was forming, a subtle shift where his ambition increasingly eclipsed our partnership, leaving me feeling like an afterthought. The disrespect escalated gradually. At a company holiday party where several of his major clients were present, he publicly joked about my woman's logic when I offered a practical solution to a supply chain issue he was struggling with. I forced a laugh, pretending it was a playful jab. A few months later, at our mutual friend Dina's birthday dinner at the Gilded Spoon restaurant, he subtly implied I was hindering his progress by distracting him with wedding planning, even though I was doing 90% of it. I felt a knot in my stomach, but later I excused him, blaming stress. The real boundary crossed was when he pulled out of co-signing a lease for my dream studio space, claiming financial strain from his startup. I knew he'd just received a decent investment. He justified it by saying he needed to protect their shared future by prioritizing his company. My sister Lena looked at me with growing concern at these incidents, but I just shrugged, still trying to accommodate. The deeper betrayal came to light 6 months before the wedding. I was packing his overnight bag for a supposed investor trip to Phoenix when I felt something hard in his jacket pocket. It was a burner phone, buzzing with a notification from Kay. My blood ran cold, but my hands remained steady. I opened it. Flirtatious messages, plans to meet, and one particularly damning photo of him holding hands with a woman I didn't recognize at a rock concert I couldn't attend due to a family emergency he claimed to have. The world tilted. A crushing weight settled in my chest, a cold, hollow ache that replaced everything I thought I knew. I stood there, phone in hand, for what felt like an eternity. I wanted to scream, to confront him, but a deeper, colder instinct took over. I made the choice to investigate further, to uncover the full scope of his deceit. Over the next 3 months, my life became a meticulous investigation. Week 1, I used a spare phone to clone the burner, then installed a discreet tracking app, Life360, on his main phone. I started monitoring his Venmo and Cash App transactions. I discovered regular, significant payments to Kay's Venmo, often for expensive dinners at places like the Oak Room and weekend getaways. Weeks 3 and 4, I cross-referenced his supposed business trips with his phone's GPS data and Kay's public social media posts. The overlaps were sickeningly frequent. In weeks 5 and 6, I noticed his personal bank account slowly draining, money going into an unknown offshore account. I quietly hired a discreet private investigator, Detective Miller, a gruff but efficient man with piercing blue eyes, to track Kay. Miller's report hit like a physical blow. Kay was Chloe Peterson, a junior executive at a rival tech firm. Victor wasn't just having an affair. He was actively feeding her my business contacts, my unique design concepts, and even early-stage product ideas that I'd contributed to his startup. The worst discovery? Chloe was a major investor in Victor's real new startup, one he'd been secretly building, using my initial $80,000 as seed money, completely bypassing his struggling company. He was funding his mistress and his true empire with my money and my ideas. Every piece of evidence, screenshots, dated photos, transaction logs, detailed PI reports was meticulously filed, creating a devastating paper trail. The final straw ignited 2 months before our wedding, at a family dinner at my parents' house. Victor, emboldened by the success of his secret venture, seemed to shed all pretense. He stood up, clinking his fork against a wine glass, and gave a toast. To Zara, who inspires me to dream big, even if she sometimes struggles to grasp the scale of those dreams herself. Her support, though sometimes limited, is appreciated. My sister Lena looked horrified. My father, usually so jovial, shifted uncomfortably. Then Victor dropped the bomb. He announced he was pulling out of our joint savings to double down on his company, effectively draining the funds we'd earmarked for our future. He spoke of it as a sacrifice, a wise investment. Outwardly, I remained calm, but inside, a glacial coldness settled over me. He just signed his own death warrant. As he sat back down, he subtly glanced at his phone, and a text from Kay popped up. "Dinner reservations confirmed for tonight, my love." His fatal mistake was assuming my quiet nature meant ignorance. That's when I realized the man I loved was a phantom, and the life we built a meticulously constructed lie. The decision solidified. I wouldn't just expose him, I would dismantle him, piece by painful piece. I needed one last confirmation, a test to seal his fate. Later that evening, I casually mentioned an opportunity for my own startup, a dream I'd put on hold for him, and asked for his support. He scoffed, his voice laced with patronizing dismissal. "Zara, now isn't the time for your little projects. My company needs our full attention, our combined attention." His contempt was palpable. I simply smiled, nodded, and said, "Of course, darling, whatever you need." As he leaned back, satisfied, I discreetly copied the reservation details from his phone when he wasn't looking. The trap was set. My plan unfolded over the next 6 weeks with chilling precision. First, I met with Mr. Dubois, a formidable attorney known for his fierce litigation skills. He was a man in his late 50s, always impeccably dressed in a charcoal suit, with a calm demeanor that belied his aggressive courtroom tactics. He advised on contract law, fraud, and the intricate nuances of marital asset division. Next, I brought in Lena, my sister, a savvy marketing expert who helped strategize the public perception of the impending implosion and gather additional social media evidence. Detective Miller, my PI, provided irrefutable proof of the affair and Victor's rival company, complete with corporate filings. Finally, Miss Anya Sharma, a sharp forensic accountant, began unraveling Victor's complex financial shell game. The cost was substantial, an initial retainer of $20,000 for Mr. Dubois and another $15,000 split between Miller and Sharma, but every dollar was an investment in reclaiming my life. The evidence collection was exhaustive. We amassed security camera footage from the concert venue, clearly showing Victor and Chloe together. We compiled 47 damning text messages from the burner phone, detailing his infidelity and his casual discussions about sabotaging my design ideas. Bank statements, meticulously analyzed by Miss Anya Sharma. Sharma traced the $80,000 from my savings to Victor's initial venture, then its methodical siphoning into his secret offshore account and Chloe's investments. Lena prepared witness testimony, outlining Victor's abusive behavior and condescending remarks she'd personally witnessed. I had 3 specific audio recordings from a hidden voice recorder in my bag during family dinners, capturing Victor's disparaging comments and his confession about pulling out funds. We had an email trail between Victor and Chloe discussing product development, which were clearly my stolen concepts, and investor pitches. Photos and screenshots documented Chloe's social media, vacation spots matching Victor's business trips, and the burner phone messages. Each piece was obtained without Victor's knowledge, often through my tech skills and careful observation, with Miller's help for corporate records. Once, Victor almost found the voice recorder when I left my bag open, but I quickly covered it with a scarf, my heart thrumming. Simultaneously, I built my financial fortress. I opened new solo accounts at Chase and Wells Fargo, systematically transferring all my remaining personal assets, inherited jewelry, and a valuable art collection into a trust. I canceled Victor's access to all joint credit cards, changed all shared passwords and security questions, and set up automatic payments for my apartment and utilities. The decoy, I left a small, seemingly active joint savings account with about $2,000 for Victor to monitor, a little mousetrap for his perception of control. Mr. Dubois prepared a devastating legal arsenal. Paperwork for breach of fiduciary duty concerning my $80,000 investment, fraud charges, immediate annulment papers based on marital fraud and undisclosed assets, and a temporary restraining order. I discovered an obscure clause in our prenuptial agreement, which he'd ironically pushed for, stating that any major financial mismanagement or undisclosed assets would void certain protections for the offending party. Dubois cited several legal precedents for asset forfeiture in cases of marital fraud. We even had backup plans. If Victor tried to flee, Miller had contacts at airport security. The wedding day dawned bright and clear, a stark contrast to the storm brewing within me. I chose this day for maximum impact, for a public humiliation that would precisely mirror the quiet, insidious ways he had humiliated me for years. I calmly got ready, the white lace dress feeling less like a garment and more like a costume. My final evidence verification was a quick, silent review of the folder, ensuring every document was in its rightful place. He played the long game, but I played a longer one. This wasn't revenge, it was an audit, meticulously prepared. Meanwhile, Victor, oblivious, was likely rehearsing his condescending toast. After his grand pronouncement, as the last echo of his words died in the stunned silence of the ballroom, I stood up. My voice, clear and calm, was amplified by the microphone. "Thank you, Victor. Your honesty is, as always, enlightening. But I believe you forgot a few details." Victor's confident smile faltered. "Zara, darling, what are you talking about? Let's just enjoy our special day." I walked over to the beautifully adorned gift table, picked up a large, ornate box wrapped in wedding paper. "I believe this is for you." I tore off the wrapping. Inside wasn't a gift, but a clear acrylic box filled with 47 laminated text messages and photos. Gasps rippled through the guests. Victor's face went from confusion to growing concern. He stammered, "This is absurd, Zara, a misunderstanding. Someone's playing a cruel joke." I simply held up a printed bank statement. "Is Miss Chloe Peterson, your actual business partner and the recipient of these regular transfers, also a cruel joke?" His panic escalated immediately. He tried to grab the microphone from my hand. "This is a setup. She's unstable." Suddenly, Mr. Dubois, who had been sitting discreetly among the guests at a back table, stood up. "Mr. Thorne," he announced, his voice carrying authority, "my client has presented irrefutable evidence of financial fraud, breach of fiduciary duty, and marital misconduct. We have filed for an immediate annulment based on these grounds, effective immediately." He walked over and handed Victor a thick stack of legal papers. Victor lunged at me, but two security guards, prearranged by Detective Miller, subtly stepped in front of me. His desperate attempt to bargain was pathetic. "Zara, please, we can fix this. Don't ruin everything." I simply looked at him, my voice a whisper, yet magnified. "Every dollar you took from me, every idea you stole, every lie you whispered, it all comes due now." Then Lena stepped forward, holding a flash drive. And I believe the guests would be very interested in seeing the behind-the-scenes footage of Victor and Miss Peterson's shared business trips, compliments of the concert venue's security cameras. Victor crumpled, his face white, realizing he was utterly trapped. His final desperate plea was a pathetic whisper. "Zara, please, my career, my life." My coldest one-liner was delivered with surgical precision. "That's why I chose your wedding day, so everyone could see its true foundation." The wedding reception dissolved into pandemonium. Victor tried frantically to contact me, leaving desperate voicemails, but I had blocked him everywhere. Lena and Mr. Dubois ensured the evidence was disseminated among our mutual friends and family, and the news of the public annulment and fraud charges spread like wildfire through our social circles and the tech industry. Victor's startup was immediately scrutinized, his investors began pulling out, and Chloe Peterson disappeared. I maintained a strategic silence, letting the overwhelming evidence speak for itself. The surprise supporter was my father, initially uncomfortable at the public display, who publicly issued a statement condemning Victor's actions and expressing his full support for me. The court date was set for 3 weeks later. Mr. Dubois presented the overwhelming evidence, the detailed text messages, Ms. Sharma's forensic analysis of the convoluted financial transactions, Detective Miller's irrefutable reports, and Lena's powerful witness testimony. The judge, clearly appalled by the calculated betrayal, granted the annulment swiftly. Victor was ordered to repay my $80,000 investment with interest, plus an additional $50,000 in damages for financial fraud and emotional distress. All assets I had helped him build were frozen, pending further investigation into their true ownership. His frantic attempts to appeal were summarily dismissed. Mr. Dubois' bill, a substantial $45,000, was paid without hesitation. It was worth every single penny. Victor, facing immense debt and a shattered reputation, lost his apartment and moved into a dingy one-bedroom unit across town. His secret startup collapsed entirely, and he was effectively blacklisted from the tech industry. He ended up taking a low-level sales job at a struggling electronics store, a far cry from his former visionary CEO title. Chloe Peterson, the affair partner and co-conspirator, sued him for fraudulent representation of assets and investment, further compounding his financial woes. He lost contact with most of his high-flying friends, who quickly distanced themselves from his scandal. The luxury he lost that hurt him most, I heard, was his lavish yearly ski trip to Aspen, which I had always secretly funded. Freed from the immense weight of Victor's ambition and deceit, I flourished. I used the recovered funds in my newfound peace to finally launch my own design studio, Azure Creative, which quickly gained traction. I found a renewed sense of purpose, focusing on my work and surrounded by genuinely supportive friends and family. The specific thing I did now, which Victor had prevented before, was to invest solely in myself and my own dreams, no longer sacrificing my aspirations for someone else's. My loyal sister Lena became my first business partner. My perspective changed profoundly. Trust isn't given, it's earned, and sometimes justice isn't about vengeance, but about reclaiming yourself and your dignity. A few months ago, I was walking through a bustling mall, heading to a meeting for a new client. I saw Victor across the way. He was in a faded, ill-fitting suit, trying to sell a cheap smartphone to a bored teenager at a discount electronics kiosk. He looked haggard, a shadow of his former arrogant self. He caught my eye, a flicker of shame, then anger clouding his face. I simply offered a genuine, serene smile and glanced down at the bespoke Azure Creative shopping bag swinging lightly from my hand. He once told me I'd never grasped the scale of his dreams. He was right, because my dreams became so much bigger than anything he could ever imagine.